Hey everybody, and welcome to Today's News Tonight, the weeknight news show where we're joined by special guests and our lovely patrons to discuss the day's gaming news. I'm your host, Ash Paulson, and as always, I am joined today by my wonderful friends and GVG co-founders, Steve Bowling and Derek Bittner, as well as our very special guest, Hungry Goriya, which I will be shortening to HG for the purposes of this discussion. HG, how's it going? We're so glad to have you here.
Things are good here. It's very cold where I live up in Canada. And we're keeping warm best we can. It's finally starting to get a little bit mild out, so that's been great.
Nice.
I love it's like exciting that it's getting mild. I'm like, although I was very excited that, hey, it's 70 degrees today. That's weird. I'm not used to that.
We finally got some rain in LA again overnight, and it's been like windy and stormy today, and I'm looking out the window right now pining for all the wind I see whipping through the trees. So like, see, HG, being an Angelino, I for some reason, even though I was born and raised in SoCal, I love cold weather. Love it. I love snow, rain, sleet, ice, hail, wind, all of it. But we don't get any of it here. So I'm just that weird Angelino. When it starts raining, I'm out there in my t-shirt and shorts just soaking it all up, literally, I guess, in this case. But I am jealous of the cold weather you have much more often than I do here.
Yeah, well, we cracked freezing the other day, and there were people out in the street in skateboards and shorts, and it was just unreal for the first time since about November. So it's been quite a turn in the weather. I'm really grateful because it's been a long winter, all things considered.
Right. Right.
Sounds awful.
Well, I think the beanie I'm wearing provides some hint as to at least one of the things we'll be talking about today. But before we get there, we have a word from our sponsor for today's episode, who is Chip Damage Mike. Chip Damage Mike and we would like you to check out Mike's YouTube channel, and here's what he has to say about it. Hi, my name is Mike, and I win all my fighting game matches via chip damage. I am also, I love that. I am also plagued by being interested in too many things. Movies, comics, manga, anime, video games, toys, and all nerd culture have their hooks firmly embedded into my brain, and I just want to talk about it. Over on my channel, Chip Damage Mike, we look at rare, weird, and valuable games on all platforms, ranging from oddities like the Neo Geo Pocket to the big ones like the PS4. I'll also be going over toy releases from companies like First Four Figures, Figma, and Kotobukiya, as well as discussions on where to start on big franchises like Yakuza or Final Fantasy. I want this channel to be a positive force where enthusiasts and collectors come together over their shared love of nerd media and culture. So get hype, and please click on over and subscribe to Chip Damage Mike on YouTube, and let's have some fun. So, yeah, let's, if we can, guys, let's get Chip Damage Mike to at least 100 subs, if not beyond. 150.
I mean, we did it for Game War, but I think we can do it for Mike as well. I think totally
we can
possible.
as well.
Yeah.
And, okay, looks like you guys already pinned a link to the channel in the chat. That's awesome. Chip Damage Mike, thank you so much for your generosity in sponsoring tonight's episode. And we hope we're able to get a bunch of subs to your channel. And like I said, everyone in our live audience, everybody watching the VOD version, please check out Chip Damage Mike's channel and drop a like and a subscribe, and we'd really appreciate it.
Sounds like fun because I'm into... I also suffer from being into too many things and not being able to just having trouble finding the time to get into all those things. I like anime.
Right.
I haven't watched anime in a long time. I like movies. I haven't seen a new movie in a long time. It's rough.
Yeah.
Well, you're also a father now, so keep waiting.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike, I mean, I love fighting games like you do, but man, playing against you sounds like a pain, because if you always win by chip damage, that would annoy the crap out of me, man.
That takes a remarkable level of skill to win all your fights via chip damage. I watched a bunch of your videos, Mike, if you're out there watching, and I love them. I saw a bunch of your Saturn collection stuff, showing off just a bunch of really obscure stuff that frankly makes me a little jealous. So if you want to see a really cool collection of really cool games, he's got a lot of good videos on the channel for you to see.
Yeah. Well, speaking of games, you guys, Cowabunga, because here we go. I got my beanie, my Raph beanie. I got a Donatello beanie next to me. Okay, so here we go. DotEmu, the developer behind the amazing Streets of Rage 4, as well as Tribute Games.
Well, no, I think it's published. Sorry. It's being published by DotEmu. Excuse me. I don't think they're developing this one.
Okay. I thought they were developing and publishing along with
I think it's, as far as I can tell, only Tribute is doing the development on it.
Well, either way, DotEmu is involved. So here we go. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge has been announced for consoles and PC. It's a 4-player beat 'em up with pixel art. It's published by DotEmu, developed by Tribute Games, who is making a retro style platform, like action platformer called Steel Assault, which I checked out and it looks awesome. But you guys, this is the story of the day. HG, we know you're super into retro games. You're all about retro games. So let's start with you. How are you feeling about this new TMNT 4-player beat 'em up that just got announced?
I was watching the trailer a while ago and I was actually quite excited just to see the animation and the throwback to kind of like the 80s cartoon stuff. I kind of wish that there had been a bit more game in the trailer overall. Like they just kind of stuck it in the end. But from what I saw, it does look pretty promising. My spouse is really into Turtles in Time and it looks like it's going to be a good throwback to that whole thing as well. So it's going to be great. I think people have been really waiting a long time for that game to come around and it's finally here. So that's great.
Yeah, the animation, it's a great time. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, the animation captures such an era. Like, you could see that a lot of stuff that pops up. It's like, oh, yeah, it's that from that game. Oh, yeah, it's that from that game. It captures those moments or those cool elements to it. And it's just like, my God, this looks amazing. I don't think I've watched a new trailer this many times in a long time, because it just completely sucked me in. And it being by Tribute Games is a good sign, because they were the ones who did Panzer Paladin, and while not all the systems of that game clicked with me, it's a great retro throwback and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this is just pure nostalgia, right? The music, the opening animation, the 80s cartoon style Turtles. This is obviously based on the original cartoon, which is super exciting. Yeah, I mean, I have so much hype for this and so much love. And of course, it's being brought to us by, like you said, Derek, the same people who worked on Panzer Paladin, the same people who worked on Streets of Rage 4, Windjammers 2. I mean, the development pedigree here is exactly what I want it to be. And this is a good time to be a fan of beat-em-ups, which is not something I thought I'd ever say in 2021, because, beat-em-ups have been an underserved genre for quite a while, but now we've gotten Streets of Rage 4, we got Scott Pilgrim re-released, and now we've got an all-new TMNT four-player brawler. But Steve, I know you have a lot to say about this too, man. So
yeah, man,
let me have it.
I am so excited for this. One, that trailer is like one of the best video game trailers of all time, in my opinion. The music, which unfortunately I couldn't play during the stream due to copyright, but the animation in that trailer is everything I ever wanted from Ninja Turtles. And then when you see, like HG said, there's not a ton of gameplay there to dissect, unfortunately. But what you do see is really, really damn nice. I love the sprite work.
Same.
It's not, and again, I know it's not developed by DotEmu, however you say that. I always imagine a pixelated bird when I read their name. But anyway, it's not developed by them, and you can tell that immediately because the art style isn't really their in-house art style that they use. Like for Streets of Rage, it's just not that kind of really HD 2D art that we have come to know from them as a developer. But I mean, it makes so much sense when you see it, because it's still beautiful sprite work. It just is more evocative of retro gaming. Like, it's pixelated, but in a very intentional looking way. Like, it looks like it is very much trying to evoke the feeling of playing Turtles at the arcade when we were kids. And I'm here for it, man. I am.
Oh, same, man.
I've never seen a trailer for a game I didn't know about and just been like, yeah, whatever you're going to charge for that, I'm paying it. I'm already sold. My wallet's open. Just pull out however much money you need for it and give me my copy, please. Thank you very much.
It's one of those things where it's sort of like Shovel Knight, where they use like enhanced NES. This is definitely enhanced SNES, and just really captures that aesthetic. And I also like looking at, like, maybe it's at a TV studio, so that might be why. But that TV studio shot totally just gives me Sonic Mania vibes, which is like, okay, yeah, I'm good with that.
Nice.
And there's just so much to really look at this and grab from it and really get excited, because they got the Mousers, there's shots of Krang in the background at all times. Of course, they got Bebop and Rocksteady. I have the under talked about here, the TMNT 3 Manhattan Project, where I don't think I ever reached this Triceratops guy in the game, but he's in that trailer.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there's the surfing bits. There's like, it feels like they're taking elements from all of the TMNT beat 'em ups, not just like Turtles in Time. They're really combining all the elements and making this almost the ultimate Turtles game, at least based on that era of Turtles. And I am so there for it. It really just captured the imagination. And it really also seems like April and Splinter will be playable, because for my money, the most beautiful shot in that entire trailer is Splinter running along the sewers and then taking out the Mauser. That is freaking so cool. Beautiful.
Yeah. I hope at a bare minimum we get April, Splinter, and Casey Jones playable. That's what I would like to see.
That would be cool.
For sure. And I also just like how they're not going to... They're giving us exactly what we want with it in terms of, like, Turtles in Time's a great game, but it's obviously pretty far removed from, like, the core focus on just fighting crime in New York and the Foot Clan and all that. I like that it's Shredder's revenge. We already know Shredder's the villain. It's, taking place in New York. They're not going too wild with it. It's just a core Ninja Turtles beat-em-up game. And man, I am so excited. HG, we haven't heard from you in a bit. I have to ask, of course, as I have to ask anyone when we're talking about the Turtles, who is your favorite turtle?
Raphael was my favorite growing up. Yeah. Like, I had the Christmas stocking of him. It's still at my parents' house. And my sister really liked Michelangelo. So we still have those two hanging around. But yeah, I always just liked his kind of badassery a little bit. I found everybody else was kind of meh. I don't know. Like, I'm not a big Donatello fan, and I'm sure that the Rotten Tomatoes will come out after me. I know. I know. But I don't know. Something about him and just how he was always calling everybody else out on their BS. It was great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I related a lot.
Nice. No, I mean, Donatello's my personal favorite. It's really close. And people always say, okay, well, my favorite is Donatello, Raphael close second. People are like, well, that's because of your dad. I mean, yeah, there is that, but I actually really just like those turtles the most as well. Like, the fact that Donatello fights with a bow staff and he's a big nerd, I identify with both of those characteristics. I've always loved the bow staff as a weapon. Not that I use it myself. I'm not trained in the art of, of the bow staff, but I love watching people fight with it, and I just love he's a big tech nerd. And then there's, of course, Raphael, who's just the sarcastic, angry, brooding one, depending on which incarnation you're talking about. But yeah, I love them both. My dad happened to voice them both, which is super cool. But I'm also just a massive TMNT fan removed from that. And I could not be happier that this game is a thing. And this is just... When I woke up to this news, I was just smiling from ear to ear. Like, this is the 2021 content I am here for, man. I'm so happy.
I've got to say, Ditto M in the chat says Ash canonically fights with a bow staff. Agreed. That is, I'm
there. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I was going to bring this up as well, but Dudo pointed it out. I really like the fact that it doesn't look like a Turtles in Time again. It isn't a Sonic Mania style. It actually looks fresh, and I love that they all have their own run cycles. Yeah, that's a really good attention to detail. And I mean, there's a lot of attention to detail. They're in that office space, and they have all the foot soldiers at the desk, and they just rip off their ties before they jump into the fight. It is, I don't know. It's that pure just amalgamation of all the titles while still being something new and fresh and exciting. And please, dear God, let this have online co-op.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
It's got to have online co-op, even if it is just 2 players, like Streets of Rage 4, maybe not 4 players. Still, I just hope there is online co-op and that it's good.
Well, I'm fortunate to be able to say that I'm about 99% sure it will.
I think you and I may have heard from some of the same stuff. Possibly.
Yeah. So I had heard from somebody close to the game today, because I'm good friends with somebody close to the game, who indicated to me that it shouldn't be a problem to play with friends in different locations, which is why I was not so subtly hinting that we should stream this game with She Says from Boundary Break, because I'm pretty confident we'll be able to do that.
Yeah. So, of course, that's not official confirmation, but it does seem like it's probably on the table.
It would also be a really weird choice not to, when we can't leave our houses.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Although we don't know when this is actually coming out. They just says more news coming soon. And my tweet about this was, "How soon is soon? I need to know how soon is soon. I need this game now." Yeah, as you can tell, my hype is through the roof. Also, I guess just a quick. Oh, okay. Oh, I was going to address Steve G's question in chat about my dad voicing some of the turtles, but it seems as though the chat has already explained that. So.
Yeah, your dad is famous. We get it.
Whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody cares.
Hey, I'm glad I don't need to explain it, which is good.
We love you, Rob Paulson. Please come on the show. You're famous.
Well, I think we finally figured out the context under which we can get my dad on, because I've been struggling to figure that out, right? Like, he's not going to talk gaming news. I mean, he would be willing to try, but he's just, this is not really his jam. So, but this I think we can talk about, and yeah, I think this might be a good.
I wonder if the game will try to get him on.
Huh?
I wonder if the game will try to get him involved or just leave it non-voice acted.
That's a good question. I had meant to ask him if he had heard about this game, and I just haven't had a chance to text him yet because I've been busy today. But I'm curious, because it's clearly based on the '80s cartoon. I really hope they're getting everyone back. My dad, Cam Clark, Townsend. Like, I hope so.
That'd be interesting.
Seems like the kind of fan focused thing they'd want to do with a game like this. So who knows?
Kind of depends on the budget.
Nickelodeon's also involved. Yeah, and also Nickelodeon, of course, is also involved as the current IP holder of TMNT. So I'm sure they have a say in this as well.
Yeah.
And
the other thing is, given the presentation of it, it can totally get by without it. I mean, it has that
totally
feel.
can.
I'd be willing to read dialogue in this game. It would feel authentic.
It would.
Right.
Earlier, totally. HD, I think when we were talking about online multiplayer, you were about to say something?
Oh, no, I was just in agreement because I know there are a lot of games that come out that don't have that kind of compatibility, and it gets to be frustrating for people. And I think if you're really trying to cater to folks and get kind of the best reception out of people, and that's an absolute must, especially in today's current climate, right? Given the state of the world and all that's going on, it would be silly not to go with some online multiplayer.
I think so too.
I want to ask you a question, because your primary focus is retro gaming, like really, really retro gaming. Like Ash was mentioning, the PS2 and PS1 being considered retro, but you're like legit, 80s retro, 80s and 90s. So do you find it frustrating these days, since the pandemic started, as somebody who primarily focuses on playing couch co-op only games, like pre-internet era games? Do you find it frustrating that it's potentially more difficult to find multiplayer partners? I know you said you have a spouse, but I know, for instance, like I miss being able to have my friends come over and have a couple beers and play games in the comfort of my own home. I'm wondering if the pandemic has kind of made that more difficult for you, or if you're just kind of going along doing the same thing you've been doing.
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, to be quite honest, my spouse and I, we have very different interests in games. He's more into MMOs or some of those war games where you control armies to do stuff. And I'm much more into RPGs or platformers, like 8-bit, 16-bit generation. So I've always really just been kind of a solo gamer, just in the essence of that. But one thing I've really found has helped a lot, especially during pandemic times, but also like I've been on Twitch for 5 years live streaming there. So that aspect of bringing kind of gaming, like single player game experiences to an audience and having that type of interaction has really even taken off since the pandemic hit, because it's a new venue for socialization that I've always had, but it's become so much more important lately, given the current state. Like in my normal day to day, I don't know a lot of other people that are into gaming. So I would never really invite people over for a video game session, even in a normal time. But yeah, having the live streams and having a community to kind of bounce ideas off of and chat with while I grind away in the 7th Saga for a gajillion years. Like
7th Saga, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was a very nice game to play with friends, and that's always kind of what my motto's been. It's always nice to have those opportunities to pass by time, not sitting alone, staring at a TV on my own. So yeah, I can't say the pandemic has really changed that for me, but it's become an enhanced activity, I guess, to give me that social interaction that I wouldn't be having otherwise.
That's really cool.
Sure.
I have to ask though, one question I have, because I became aware of you through a Kotaku article that mentioned some really cool stuff you did, like miking your Dreamcast so people could hear the loading sounds, which to me was just the coolest idea that I've never heard anybody run with. So, but I want to know, like, when you're not streaming, when you're not, playing for an audience, do you play on a CRT or do you play on a modern set?
Always a CRT. So my spouse is he's kind of a
real one.
He's a big my spouse is a big tech guy, right? So he loves PVMs, like professional video monitors, BVMs, broadcast video monitors. He's super into CRTs. Like, we've hauled a few off the side of the road and brought them home and cleaned them up. He's just so into that stuff. So by way of our mutual hobbies meeting up in gaming, right? Like, he's more of a PC person. I'm much more of a console person, but he's been so excited just to be able to tinker with CRT TVs and like learn how to hook everything up to it. Like, because with the professional video monitors and stuff, they use RGB input, which we didn't have in North America. So it's this whole other realm of like nerdery that he can just dive headfirst into. And so when I stream, or even when I'm playing on my own, I have a 25-inch Sony Trinitron PVM that I sit down and I play off on a couch. So I don't stream at a desk and I don't play video games at a desk. Like, my game room, whether I'm using it on or off stream, is a couch and a TV set 6 feet away. So it's
nice.
It's as reminiscent of childhood as I've been able to make it. That's been kind of nice.
The dream.
That's so great.
I actually recently, like in the last 2 months, went looking for a CRT. I talk about my good friend John Linneman from Digital Foundry all the time, and he is like the most high-profile proponent of CRTs I know. And so he convinced me that I needed to see what the PlayStation 5 looked like on a CRT. And I went thrifting for like 2 straight days, just trying to find any CRT of any quality out there here in Arizona, and I could not find one. I was really saddened by that. I hope someday I'll be able to get one, but apparently they
could
they
you
are
even
in short
hook
supply.
up a PS5 to a CRT?
John's got a method.
Really?
He will tell you all about it if you let him.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are definitely ways. I actually recently, for that Famicom video, was trying to hook up my Famicom to my OLED, which would have been really fun, but the Famicom died, so I've got to replace it. Yeah.
That sucks.
Oh wow. That's a bummer.
Eduardo Tane in the chat mentioned that they're a huge fan of the added online for the NES and SNES games on the Switch. So am I, and I was just thinking about that copy of the Manhattan Project that Derek was just holding up. What a cool tie-in it would be if they were to like release the OG like TMNT 2, the arcade game, and the Manhattan Project on NES Online, along with Turtles in Time on SNES Online. Proper online classic beat 'em up action.
Didn't they actually do? I was going to say I have to get through Konami and there's a licensing thing, but didn't they actually get to re-release it on the Wii Virtual Console?
I think you're right.
Did they might have? Of course, I wouldn't have had online, but yes, that.
I mean, it's still just the fact old licensed game being able to get reissued is.
And Turtles Arcade was on the 360, I believe.
It was. Yeah, it was called 1989 Arcade, and then they also did a remake of Turtles in Time called Turtles in Time Reshelled, which was okay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. But yeah, and they good call, Derek. They did release those on Wii Virtual Console. So it would be really nice if they could make that happen again. With online for NES and SNES Online. I don't think it'll happen. But the most important thing, though, is that these digital versions of the old NES games don't come with a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut. That's the worst part about them.
Forgot about that.
I know, right? Like it's so weird to think that NES games used to come with coupons like that you can send in.
I think that's why I tossed the boxes away, because it was cardboard and it came with stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, it's just junk.
I had just seen on Reddit last week that someone still had their Turtles pan pizza coupon, and they were trying to figure out if they could get Pizza Hut to still honor it. Yeah, I wonder where that went. I really need to find that thread, but I feel like if they had tweeted it instead of posting it on Reddit, like some saucy community manager would have been like, all right, come on in. We'll give you a free pizza.
Totally.
Hey,
totally.
If I could, I would. If I had the authority and wouldn't get in trouble for honoring that, I would absolutely offer those coupons just going forward forever. Oh, if anyone ever brought them in.
God, I still remember the beginning of the second movie where everybody's eating pizza, and that is an advertisement for pizza if I've ever seen one. It's just that the opening of the second movie.
Oh yeah. And when I was a kid, like my buddy and I, when we would order pizza, like we were hanging out playing video games, we would always do the wait, a moment to reflect, and then smell the pizza. No, my TMNT fandom runs deep. You guys, I'm so excited for this.
It made me very happy when I saw Mac Muscles respond to the initial tweet from Tribute Games talking about this, and went Bossa Nova, and then immediately other people responding to him, Chevy Nova?
Chevy Nova?
It's like so amazingly dumb, and I love it.
Jose Canseco bat? Tell me you didn't pay money for this. We can't do this. I will spend the rest of this whole discussion quoting TMNT.
Hey,
I can't.
I did my best to slip in an Xbox segue for you, and you just moved past it, man.
I did. It's because I got turtle fever.
It's a little too rough right now.
It's true. Before we do move on to the next story, though, I want to extend a warm welcome to both Castle and DotEmu in the chat, both of whom are names I don't recognize. So thank you so much for joining our live audience.
I think DotEmu's been here. You even mentioned their name before, just in passing earlier.
Yeah. Then my bad. I see so many names, but either way, we're happy to have you here. And Castle, I do want to say I agree with you. You said a Comic Zone style for the dialogue would be so cool. Hell yeah, it would. I love that idea. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have... Cool. Yeah, I was going to say, as long as it doesn't have that difficulty of Comic Zone integrated into the gameplay.
So hard.
Agreed.
I remember getting to the final boss. I can't remember if I actually beat it.
The one thing I have to point out, though, is Comic Zone has the most 90s ass protagonist. Like the long hair and the small circular. I had a friend who dressed like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's single.
And also the main character's name, Sketch Turner. That is so 90s.
That I couldn't even remember that.
That's 90s.
You're just one vowel away from Skitchin.
Oh man, you're right. Skitchin Turner, his long lost brother. Oh, I love it. Okay, so DotEmu is just imposter. So of course, thank you for the reminder. DotEmu says, "I'm just imposter. I changed my name because Among Us ruined the word imposter." Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I feel for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we could talk about turtles all day. Ninja Turtles, of course, not just regular turtles. But we do have more news to talk about. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Get that up on screen.
Skitch on over.
And Team Xbox has officially, Phil Spencer specifically, has officially welcomed Bethesda to Team Xbox. The purchase is final. It's happened. It's done. The ink is dry. Bethesda is officially part of Team Xbox. And along with this, we have gotten confirmation that some more Bethesda games are going to be coming to Game Pass this week. And Microsoft has also confirmed that some future Bethesda games are going to be exclusive to Xbox and PC, which, no surprise there, right? Yeah. That makes sense. I'm not the biggest Bethesda guy myself, so does anybody want to talk about how this is landing for them?
You guys, Steve.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Bethesda games. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of Bethesda, though. It's like, I like Doom. I like playing Fallout in ways that it's not intended to be played. I will do. They're okay. But they're a studio that I understand makes good things, but those good things don't resonate very much with me personally. And I think that's probably the best way to put it. Like, I even picked up Skyrim for the Switch. I actually own an incredibly rare copy of Skyrim with a creepy story attached to it. This was back during my days writing for Nintendo Life, when I was their U.S. editor for a time. And I shit you not, this is the scariest thing that's ever happened to me in games journalism. I got a knock on the door, and I took my sweet time answering it. I walked up, opened my front door, and there was a leather-bound package sitting on my doorstep. No shipping label.
Oh, God.
And nice. I was like, what is this? And it was bound with rope. Like, it was wrapped in leather and had cord, like rope tied around it. And I was like, oh, if I'm going to die, I'll do it in the kitchen. And so I take it to the kitchen.
This is the way to go.
And I unwrap it, and there's just there's a series of postcards and a copy of Skyrim for the Switch. Physical, of course. And there's no note. I don't know who sent it. There was nothing with it, just this copy of Skyrim. And I didn't think much of it. I popped it in, I played it, I bounced off it. It's, again, Skyrim's not my game. You know, I got the Master Sword and I got the Champion's Tunic, and I was like, oh, this might make the game more fun for me. And I was like, I just feel like Link if Link had a severe case of scurvy. I'm going to put it down. And I filed it away, and it wasn't until almost a year and a half later that I was doing coverage for the Switch Lite for GX, and I decided to make a mural out of Switch game cases on my table, and just pan across it during the video. And some like big Skyrim fan noticed my copy, and they're like, "Why does your copy of Skyrim look so weird?" And so I took pictures of it, and it's like a one-off that nobody else has. Like, wow. It comes, the packaging is completely different, and I never knew it because I didn't care. So I have this really weird, rare print of Skyrim that I still don't quite know where it came from. So there you go.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that does. Go ahead.
It's interesting, but yeah, that's
it.
My
kind of reminds me of the marketing angle that EA took with Dante's Inferno, where they were trying to like emphasize all the different sins and be like, "That's weird." It's a little
It's not strictly game related, but it does remind me of what, in hindsight, I thought was fantastic marketing. I'll always remember this. I don't know what year it was, but one year after San Diego Comic-Con, I was leaving. I used to go to SDCC every year in the before times to either work the show or cover it, whatever. And one year I was leaving. The last day, it was Sunday, and I saw a cardboard box, just an unattended cardboard box on the sidewalk. That people were just walking right past and not really noticing, but it had a bunch of unmarked VHS tapes in it. And me being just, curious, probably too curious for my own good, I'm like, wait a minute, there's an unmarked box of just blank VHS tapes on the sidewalk at Comic-Con? I have to know. I have to take one of these tapes back and just see. I have to, right? And that knowing full well that I might regret my decision. So I get the tape home, and I'm just so curious. I pop it in. It was the Ring tape before anyone knew what the Ring was.
Oh,
it was great viral marketing. It was so good. And so, of course, not having any context for what the Ring even was, I was creeped out. And I showed my dad, and he was like, it's probably just some highfalutin art student trying to express themselves or something. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, Dad. Turns out it was the Ring. But yeah, imagine watching that tape and having no context for what the hell it even was. It was a little unsettling. Yeah.
My mind was immediately drawn to that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin where they're talking about the dude's box of videos, and they're like, if you spray that stuff where you could see bodily fluids, they're like, you could see that from space.
Oh, no, God.
It's like,
I
knew that box home.
Yeah. Right. No, I knew, and I definitely, I sanitized the tape, I washed my hands thoroughly. I knew what I could be getting into, and thankfully that's not what I was getting into.
You're such a trusting spirit, Ash. I respect that so much about you, because if I saw a crusty box with some VHS tapes in it, my last thought would be like, let's see what's on these.
Don't get me wrong. It's less than I'm trusting and more than I'm just too curious for my own good. I am way too curious. I didn't think that whatever was on that tape was probably going to be kosher. I figured it was probably either something creepy or just porn. But I was just so curious. I was saying, how do you not be curious about that? At least me. So I had to take it home, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, it was more. It was less trust and more just wanton curiosity that probably is not always a good thing. But yeah,
I was actually looking at because if we're getting titles, I'm gonna guess if we're gonna get stuff that's exclusive to Xbox, I almost wonder if we're getting stuff that maybe isn't the big news, because I feel like they know that we should probably put Doom on multiple systems, not make it exclusive, because that's a good way to have a bit of pushback. I don't know. But I was looking into their old stuff, and I was like, that'll actually work with HD as well. And I kind of forgot that they're all right. They're mostly PC. So that's a bust. Right. I don't know what they could bring back though.
I keep thinking about this acquisition. What purpose does it serve beyond, giving them more ammo in the ongoing console war? I feel like more things than not are going to be exclusive. You're not going to want to spend untold billions and then have the next Elder Scrolls be on PS5. I feel like that's just a move that you wouldn't want to make if you invested that kind of cash. I feel like this is a move that will strengthen not the Xbox, but xCloud. And as Microsoft transitions from a company that makes games for a specific piece of hardware, they're going to, to a company that provides a game streaming service. I could see them putting xCloud on the PS5 and saying, hey, if you want to play the next Elder Scrolls, it is tied to our ecosystem, and you can either A, buy an Xbox for $500, or B, give us $20-something a month and play it on your PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
But I see them chasing kind of technically unlocking it by letting people play within their ecosystem on competing devices, but not directly porting their stuff to those devices so that they get the continued revenue instead of the person that's going to throw them $70 one time and then not look at them again.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I think that's a strong take. And I do wonder if the fact that Microsoft and Nintendo are clearly not afraid of being in bed together, if we might see that reflected in differently on Switch availability versus PlayStation. Like, probably not, especially with the xCloud angle that you were saying, Steve, but I do wonder if there is a chance that we could, see Microsoft being a little more willing to have Nintendo support for future Bethesda games over PlayStation support.
I think that you're totally right on that. I think that Microsoft, for better or worse, does not see Nintendo as a meaningful competitor. I think they see them as somebody who can complement their strategies. So, Microsoft has long made it known that they have zero interest in the portable gaming market, which, all right, that doesn't make sense, but okay.
Sure.
And they have been awfully close with Nintendo. We've said that a lot over the years. So I feel like if Microsoft were going to let Bethesda's IPs be on a competing platform, that there is a far higher likelihood that it would be the Switch, because they definitely see the PlayStation as like their primary enemy in this field right now.
Right. And I think that's a fair approach, just because, yes, I guess there is the idea that they don't see Nintendo as a serious competitor, but I look at it more as they understand that Nintendo's, as they have always done, are marching to the beat of their own drum. They're doing their own thing. They're chasing a different market than PlayStation is. And I think even a lot of Nintendo fans would say that, you unless you're only into Nintendo, you're best served by having whatever Nintendo's console is at the time and either a PlayStation or an Xbox, because then you kind of have access to most everything. Not everything, but most everything. It makes a lot more sense to have a Switch and a PS5 or a Switch and an Xbox than it does a PS5 and an Xbox, right? So Absolutely. It's just a different market that Nintendo's going after, and I think Microsoft recognizes that. And at the end of the day, we win. Consumers, critics, we win because we get to have Xbox games on Switch, or at least the occasional Xbox game on Switch. So it works out for us best in the end.
Yeah, we'll see how it all goes. I am curious how it's all, because the first time they announced something is completely exclusive to the Series X, hell is going to be raised. Like, people know it's coming. Doesn't matter. It's all depends on which game. Elder Scrolls 6, oh yeah, they're going to be upset. Doom 3, oh yeah, they're going to be upset. Maybe the only one they could get away with that nobody really cares about, Rage 3.
Yeah. Right. Good point. All right. Well, I think we've pretty much tapped this subject out. So let's go ahead and move on to a wildly different news topic than one we just talked about. Let's go ahead and get that up on screen. And this comes right out of WTF world. Build-A-Bear, of all companies, is launching an Animal Crossing New Horizons collection. That's about it.
This is not WTF to me. This is complete. Yeah. It makes complete sense. They have Pokemon. Sense. Yeah. They have Pokemon tie-ins as well. This is Build-A-Bear. Like, okay, sure. This is like the hottest thing on the Switch. Kids love it. There's a lot of very plushable characters in here. We're making this happen. Right. This is pure.
I think it was more just like the sudden. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But yes, in terms of thematic, it makes sense. That of course there's precedent for this. HG, we haven't heard from you in a bit. Are you an Animal Crossing fan at all? Does this pique your interest?
Yeah, I would say. Like, I don't know how you could be a fan of Animal Crossing because it's such a weird entity, but like, there's not much to it. But I have been playing the newest one just during the pandemic, just for something to do, for some routine. It was very helpful for me. But I think it's going to really corner, like you kind of already alluded to, like a really great market, but kids and adults alike. I know a lot of folks that are my age, like in their late 20s, mid 30s, that really love Animal Crossing, and not even just from like the earlier installments, but they brought so many characters back in New Horizons. I think it's really going to be a popular thing. I don't know how many they're going to be releasing or who they're going to be releasing specifically, but of my friends online, I know that there are a lot of fan favorites out there. So they're really going to hit the nail with that one, I think.
I think so too.
Like you walk into Build-A-Bear, who are you looking for?
Well, if I have to say what Build-A-Bear stuff I own, I have a Snoopy from Charlie Brown.
Ooh, I love it.
And I have a Baby Yoda, even though I haven't seen The Mandalorian. But if I was going for something from Animal Crossing, I don't know. I think a lot of people really like Celeste. A lot of people, they kind of like Tom Nook. They don't really like Tom Nook, But yeah, like there's some of the really old school characters from the GameCube generation that they keep bringing back around, and I wouldn't know those folks off the top of my head because I didn't play the GameCube one too much myself, but there's some very deep lore there that I can see really being a great market for those that are longtime fans or even just brand new fans as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I think this kind of, as you said, Ichi, I think this appeals to a couple different audiences, not just new Animal Crossing fans, but legacy Animal Crossing fans who grew up with the series and are now in their 30s, late 20s. This just seems like a slam dunk for Build-A-Bear in terms of how many people this could possibly appeal to. And I think this just absolutely makes perfect sense.
Oh, yeah. WolfX Blake in the chat said, Steve can use his children as an excuse to get a Rover plush. And I am absolutely going to do that. 100%. I will drag my children there kicking and screaming so that I can buy something. No, there's no secret that Rover is like my favorite character. I see a lot of love for Raymond from New Horizons too, like the cat with the bi-colored eyes.
Oh yeah,
typically dresses in business attire,
the glasses.
A lot of people, weirdly interested in that cat.
I think I don't know if that's I do feel like they'll skew a little bit more towards kids this time around. I don't know if they'll get a lot of the minor ones, but it feels like Isabelle, Nook, KK.
Yeah,
those are the big ones. What's the owl? What's the owl's name? I think he has a good chance.
It's
Blathers.
Yeah,
Blathers. That's it.
Sorry, I was
the one I'm hoping
because we were just talking about Celeste, and I was like, "That's the owl."
Oh, right.
The one I'm hoping for, my favorite Animal Crossing villager is Reese. I've always liked Reese. I think she's adorable, and I love Reese and Cyrus together. But I just think Reese is just adorable as all hell. So I would love to see her part of this lineup. But I know she's also not like part of the tier A villagers necessarily, like Isabelle and Nook and all that. So I don't expect it to happen, but a Reese version would be pretty cool, I think.
I agree with that. I would love to see Reese. I'm wondering if they have a list. I'm checking out the. Nope, nothing. Just notify me when they're available. So we'll see. I'm at least going to keep an eye on this. My kids love Animal Crossing. Literally, 3 of my 4 kids own their own copy of Animal Crossing at this point.
Oh my gosh. Well, that explains why there's so many copies sold.
Yeah, we're a
Every family does
Animal
that.
Crossing player household at this point. Which is a terrifying notion. Like my kids will come up to me and be like, "Do you have any clay? I need to build something." I'm like, I'm not thinking about this right now.
Nice. All right. Well, we mentioned earlier that we were talking about before the show about how the PS1 and PS2 are considered retro consoles, and this next story is the reason for that. So let's go ahead and get that up on screen.
Oh yeah.
And that is that NIS America has announced Prinny Presents NIS Classics Volume 1 for the Switch, and it includes 2 games, the PS1's Phantom Brave, as well as the PS2's Soul Nomad and the World.
I'm pretty sure Phantom Brave came out on the PS2.
Did it? Oh, my bad. Oh, you're right. It is. Yeah, they're both PS2 games. My bad. I got my
also,
NIS.
I think came out on Wii, if I remember correctly.
It did. There was a Wii release of Phantom Brave. I do remember that. So my bad. I got my NIS titles mixed up. But yeah, I did play Phantom Brave, but I have never heard of Soul Nomad. So I'm kind of like, I get half this collection, the other half I'm a little clueless on. But this is the first time, of course, either of these titles has been available on Switch. It's coming this summer. And I know one of my best friends is a diehard NIS America fan. This guy is like his favorite thing. He loves the Prinnies. He's going to be losing his mind for this. But has anyone here played either of these games prior?
I have. I went through an NIS phase when I first encountered Disgaea, and I would pick up a lot of their stuff. But the other thing with Disgaea is their games are long. There is so much stuff to do in each of them. It kind of got burned out. But I remember being really interested in Phantom Brave in particular, because this is the one where I believe, if I'm remembering the game right, you play a soul who possesses objects, and it kind of determines how you move. Like, there's no classic grid in this one, the strategy game. So it's more circular based, and you can move certain degrees and change up what you're effective against and weak against, depending on what you possess. I think that's how it works. So I am kind of interested in that, because I always look back at the PS2 era. I was like, I wish I had picked that one up, because it seemed pretty interesting. But I'd love to see them also bring back La Pucelle Tactics, which was another really fun one.
That one I played, I think, all the way through. Phantom Brave, I think I only played maybe several hours of. But yeah, La Pucelle, I played all the way through the original Disgaea. Yeah, kind of like you, Derek. I went through an NIS phase, and that I kind of just got over fairly quickly. I think just because they continue to kind of make games that fall into a genre that don't always appeal to me, but you can't deny the quality of the games they make, and that's the reason they've endured so long. I mean, I think Disgaea 6 is coming out, I think, this summer. Yeah, so clearly...
I haven't played a Disgaea game since 3.
Oh, no. Okay. Disgaea 5 is far and away my favorite in the series. It is
wow.
Really? Time. Yeah, and I've played all of them. So I would strongly, if you like anime, and I know you do, I recommend 5.
Yes, we are all big anime fans here. However, we haven't talked about the most important part about Phantom Brave, which is the fact that one of its main characters is named after me. Obviously, there's somebody on the development team over at NAS who just is a huge Ash Paulson fan. No, but there actually is a main character in this game named Ash, and that's pretty cool. So there is that as well. But I have never played Soul Nomad though, nor have I ever even heard of it.
I've not. I just saw this Ash. The other Ash is voiced by Lex Lang, who's notable for being Cortex in the Crash games.
So, cool. Okay.
That's a fun thought, especially with your thoughts on Crash.
Right. Hey, you know what? That, like I said during that state of play, I really want to check out the PS5 version of Crash 4. I may not be a fan of the character, but I can't deny how gorgeous and fun that game looks. So, he may yet win me over, Crash. Who knows? We'll see.
I have to point out, since we're talking about NIS, there's more credence to your theory that they are fans of you than you think. I remember very specifically at the last E3 we were at, where NIS inexplicably gave me a lot of curry to take home.
Ooh,
yeah,
nice.
they gave me like cook at home curry, and then the TSA confiscated it. It really sucked. I was so heartbroken. I was like, I'm ready to go home and eat this right now. E3's over.
That's so sad.
They previewed a game for me, and I wish I could remember the name, but it's like it's a shoot 'em up. But the main character was named Ash. And in the opening scene, he kills a Nazi.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I'm into both those things. I mean, okay.
I'm just saying, NIS has your back. You should probably reach
I guess
out to
so.
them and let them know that you'll waive your traditional appearance fees or something.
I'm sad because I figured I'd give it a go, and I just Googled shmup Ash Nazi. Nothing came up. The only thing that came up is Wolfenstein Youngblood, so that didn't work out. I really want to know what it is. I want to know what this game is, though. I'm so curious.
I have friends at NIS. I'll reach out to them and get them to remind me what it was. I know during the same event I previewed La Mulana 2 and some other games, but NIS always has the best previews because, one, they never do them at E3. They do them at a restaurant, and so they feed you the whole time you're playing the games, and it's just like a casual chill. Like, you get off the show floor, you get to actually sit down and take a breath. It's more companies should take note of this. You don't need to feed me every time, but if you take me away from the show floor for my preview and actually let me sit in a proper chair, I will be grateful.
Yes.
If shows ever happen again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
HD, do you have much experience with this era of RPGs or just NIS in general?
No, none at all, actually. I would say the only PlayStation 2 RPG I've ever really touched is Final Fantasy X, and that's it. So, and that might have even been a little earlier on than some of these releases. I've never heard of either of these. So, yeah, unfortunately.
Very anime, very off the beaten path. Like I was looking at, I was reading a quick Wikipedia thing on Soul Nomad, and apparently I'm only skimming, so I don't get the full breadth of it, but apparently you have a choice. Like when you visit villages, you could either try to recruit NPCs from there, or you can just outright attack them and steal all their crap. So
I know which one I would choose.
I thought of you. I was actually looking through the NIS's backlog of stuff that they've released before, and it'd be kind of cool to get Rhapsody Musical Adventure. That was a PS1.
It would.
That'd be kind of cool. I think it was ported to DS as well. I forget.
I believe it was. It was a cool game too. Way too easy, which was like its only main thing. Because I played the game and I quite enjoyed it, but it's just way too easy.
There's also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to ask us the music RPG, right? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I haven't played it, but I've seen a review or two on it, and it looked really cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. I remember enjoying my time with it.
Grim Grimoire is another one that gets. I've never picked it up or even looked at it, but it was the art style on the cover always kind of pulled me in. And well, that explains it. I just clicked on it just to get some idea of why. It's a George Kamitani. It's a Kamitani thing who did Dragon's Crown.
Okay.
All the recent ones. So that's a good one to do.
It's funny. I was looking at I was comparing the release dates between Phantom Brave and FF Tactics, and just kind of in response to what you were saying, HG. And it's as we've surmised, FF Tactics came way before, of course, being a PS1 game, and Phantom Brave is a PS2 game that came out in 2004. FF Tactics came out in '97, so clearly a huge gulf there. But it's gotten me thinking about how interesting it is that retro, the idea of retro, means so many different things to just as many different people. And I'm thinking of a meme that I just retweeted last week, I believe, about Final Fantasy. And it's like, what you think Final Fantasy was 20 years ago. And it shows a screenshot of FF4. And then it says what Final Fantasy actually was 20 years ago. And it's FF10. And it's weird because I fall into that top part where, oh yeah, FF 20 years ago, 16-bit 2D, yeah, but that's not actually what it was. It was the PS2's FF10 20 years ago. That's also considered retro, and it's wild to me that it is.
I have issues with that. Like it is a stark reminder of your own mortality to find out that you're about 10 years late to the party. But I honestly have I don't know what it is, but I don't think I'll ever classify a console that I played after exiting college and having a job as retro. I just don't think I can wrap my head around that concept. Like I look at Sega Master System, NES, SNES, probably up to the 32-bit era, and then I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like
that's to me kind of how I. Yeah.
Yeah. And past that, I'm like, well, I mean, those all seem kind of modern to me. I don't know.
I mean, anything for me past the PS. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, HG.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's also completely the world that I live in, because I kind of lived under a rock between, I had NES and Genesis and Game Boy growing up, and then nothing at all, and didn't, I played the games I had as a kid pretty much all those years, and then I got a PlayStation 2 on my 16th birthday in 2002 or something like that, and it was mind-blowing. I remember, even playing PS1 games on PS2, and a couple of PS2 games eventually, it floored me. I'm like, wow, this is so different. This is like a movie. And there was so much more imagination kind of sucked out of it, I guess, because the games would tell you so much more in their visuals and in their music than you could ever have had before that. But I'm still now just even still playing retro and sometimes dabbling playing Skies of Arcadia right now, which is Dreamcast. For me, that still feels modern in my mind. So yeah, I totally hear that sentiment of that call to mortality and the oh no, why am I so behind all the time in gaming? But you're never going to catch up,
No.
Yeah,
right.
I couldn't.
We got the backlogs to prove it.
Yeah, exactly. True. I mean, for me. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was just going to say. I mean, if I truly evaluate my backlog. Like there are SNES games that I still need to get to.
Yeah.
Which is
same.
Again, terrifying.
Yeah.
I haven't made it out of my first full decade of life worth of video games yet.
See, I've always imagined retirement as that time to finally catch up on your backlog.
Okay, hold on. Real talk. This is going to get scary. I think about this a lot. I think about all the games that I want to play and all the time I don't have to play them. And the fact that I am steadily approaching retirement age, right? At the same death march we all are part of. And I worry that by the time I retire, by the time my kids are grown and I've got my house to myself and no more day job and maybe not even doing this, who knows? Maybe people will want to see 66-year-old Steve Bowling shouting at a cloud. But I think about when I'll have the free time I imagine I'll have, and then just being too arthritic and tired to like hold a controller.
Don't say that.
To do this stuff and you know I play fighting games and I'm like, man, my reflexes aren't what they used to be. Like, you know, I can't compete with younger people that know these games, and I'm like, that'll just get worse in 30 more years.
Yeah
I'm like, at what point do I just, you know, like just hang up the controller? And I'm terrified of that. But you know,
I see those 90-year-old grandmas playing games.
That's
I'm like,
what
that's
I was
me.
gonna say. I see these.
Yeah,
I see like 95-year-old granny playing Dragon Quest. I'm like, all right, if they have to give me cybernetic eyes and robot knuckles, I'll do it. But I'm never giving up.
Exactly. I mean, I think you're not always going to be able to compete for sure. But I think as long as you're still having fun and enjoying yourself, you're never going to age out of games.
That would be an excellent like campaign to get people to be more healthy and active. Just be like, think about all the video games you won't be able to play if you don't exercise now. Think about all the lazy crap you won't be able to do when you're an old person because you're lazy now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you folks, like I saw a while ago, some of you have some games in your possession. Like, do you folks collect a lot? Because on that vein, and I'll let you answer that first actually before I go on there.
I didn't get rid of many games growing up, so I've just collected naturally over time. So yeah, I have about three shelves worth, double stacked.
I used to collect games and like game memorabilia and like limited editions and things like that. I don't know exactly. I didn't officially stop ever, but I just stopped having room for it all. And so now I'm especially with the Switch, I'm more likely to buy digital. The Switch kind of, I was like one of those holdouts against digital. Like I loved owning physical games, and I still do, but something with the Switch specifically kind of pushed me more into digital. And so now I don't really buy every game physically anymore. I'm very specific and selective about the collector's editions I get, usually Square Enix ones, maybe some Nintendo ones, but I don't collect like I used to, no.
The other tricky part about collecting is like, you get with us being in this business, sometimes, you know, it's a Crimea River type problem, but as far as physical collecting goes, you get a game early. It's going to be digital. Well, I already have it. Why am I going to go out and buy it just to have that physical copy? I've done it a few times, but I don't normally.
I exist as the counterweight to that. So I will say first off, I'm with Ash and with Derek a little bit. There are a lot of games I don't pick up. I've never, ever, ever, ever been a completionist when it comes to collecting because I just don't have the money to do something like that. The financial means don't exist for me to just say, I'm going to own every game for this console. As much as I respect the dedication it takes to do that, and I love seeing like on Instagram people's photos of their game rooms and they've just got shelves of games. I love that. I would be at complete peace in a room like that. But too. I also have to have the grace to accept that I will never own that room because I just don't have that kind of cash. So I've limited my collecting to the series that I love the most in the world. Those are Mario, Zelda, Phantasy Star, and Shenmue. And those are like the three series that whenever a core mainline thing comes out, I will buy whatever collector's edition, whatever physical good there is for that game. But outside of those four series, I have to exercise restraint.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Yeah. So the reason why I was asking was just to kind of get a feel in the room for collecting in general. And like I collect, my spouse and I both collect quite a lot. And just tying back to the whole like mortality idea, a couple of years ago, I actually bought someone's collection. So talking about hanging up the controller, there was a man who was kind of in his 50s who wanted to part ways with all of his physical games because he had had a friend that had passed away. And I think his family just tossed out his prized possessions without really consulting, without trying to sell. And so this guy was kind of moved by that entire thing and said, well, we just really want the collection to go to somebody who's going to keep it, take care of it, use it. And so we ended up with probably one of my very favorite game collecting adventures, where we went and we picked it all up for a couple of $100, and I got some really wonderful stuff from him. And just that whole concept of like getting to that point in life and being ready to move on and part ways, it feels like so foreign to me in my 30s now, like being so swept up in gaming and like playing through my backlog and getting into more modern stuff, quote unquote modern stuff, as I go along here. But yeah, it is going to be a reality, I think, that a lot of us are going to have to face someday if we are collectors. And, you know, where does that stuff go? That's a totally different topic, and I'm not trying to obviously diverge too far from what you folks are thinking about, but I did want to share that.
Yeah. No, this is a fascinating topic, and one that I think about a lot more than I wish I did. I think about, well, this is getting really dark, but yeah, I think about my mortality and my gaming future as I get older. And it's weird because I don't see myself ever getting over gaming. I always see myself existing in and around and working in and around gaming. But at the same time, it's so hard for me to picture 60-year-old me chilling and playing whatever the latest Mario or Mega Man or whatever game is, even though I know I will be. It's just it's a really hard thing for me to visualize.
See, I can totally see it for myself because I have, I've made, the whole gaming thing my job. I've had rough times, with involving this job, and yet my passion for games is still there. I still love this hobby. I still want to talk about games all the time. So yeah, it's going to stick around for a while.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
There was there was a point in my life when I was in my early 20s and I had just got my first corporate job. I was working for Apple. And I thought that was, as most early 20-year-olds think, I thought that I had to have my life figured out, that I had to know where I was going and what I was doing. And I had recently decided I was giving up on my dream job of writing for a games magazine because it just wasn't in the cards. I didn't live in the right area. I didn't, online games journalism wasn't really a thing that paid the bills back then. And, because I'm old. And I had reached a point where I thought that, okay, I've got my corporate 9-to-5. I've got myself set up. I have a 401k. I'm investing money, this kind of stuff. This is where I say goodbye. And I start just being a grown up. And it took maybe 4 months for me to figure out that life just ain't like that. That people don't operate that way. You don't just give up things because it's time. And I ended up meeting a group of like-minded people within Apple who all loved Nintendo, and they had like a mailing list. It turned out there was this huge subculture at Apple's corporate headquarters where people just got together and talked about Nintendo and played Double Dash. And, when the DS came out, there was email threads going back and forth within the company, like talking about how cool it was and people setting up, lunchtime play dates and stuff to go play multiplayer games. And I was like, oh, you don't have to do this. I think the thing that we see as a generation is that we are the first generation that is going to grow old gaming. The people that we see in their 60s and above are typically people in positions of power within gaming companies because they were adults when we were kids and they were making the games we played. And now we're the first generation that has kind of been raised with video games, and we're going to be the first generation to grow old with them too, to go from childhood all through life with video games. And so I think it's kind of this thing where we kind of have a difficulty imagining it because the parents and the grandparents in our lives didn't do it. And
right.
So
I started with the NES, and I know that there's a half step behind me who started with the Atari 2600 and ColecoVision and all that. but we haven't really seen too many examples. At least I haven't. I don't know anyone in my life who grew up before me playing on those consoles and are still playing games now. I don't know anybody who's had that experience.
I can think of one person off the top of my head I know that had those older games. But yeah, it's just not as common. And some people, you talk to other people, like sort of similar HG story, except different circumstances. When I was trying to earn a little extra money from working at a local game store, did a bunch of trade-ins. We had a guy come in, I think it was when the PS4 was almost brand new, or not. Yeah, it was brand new, because the guy wanted to get a PS4 and Killzone Shadowfall, or whatever it was, the Killzone game for PS4. And he traded in a massive collection of NES and SNES games and other accessories and stuff on here. And I'm like, just almost appalled. Like, you're trading in all of this amazing stuff for a PS4 and a okay game. And it just, as I was ringing it up for him, I'm like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Just staking my claim right away. It's how I got a copy of Final Fantasy, got the gold cartridges of Zelda, just laid claim to as much as I could. I think I got Super Mario RPG. It was just as much as I could claim and could afford to claim. And it's just weird. It's just weird to me to think about these people that have these great collections, but they don't care. It's how a lot of these people who do Goodwill hunts find amazing games. I've never successfully done that myself, but I've heard stories of people finding getting amazing finds at Goodwills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting to think about in the context that we're living an experience that really there is no, there's no one's lived it yet. Kind of as you guys have been saying.
Yeah, it's unique.
We are the first to kind of live out our whole lives through every stage of life playing video games and growing old with them. And I know that I'll grow old with them as well. It's just hard to visualize because, again, I don't really know anyone who has, and I don't think any of us really do. So, yeah, man, I talking about mortality, though, this sucks. You guys, straight up, this sucks.
I like this, though, from Odd Doodle. People who are in their 20s in the 70s are now 70, and they still like Queen. It isn't weird to not give up on what you love,
That is very true. I think as long as you're having a good time, you never, as long as you're having a good time, you're responsible. I mean, that goes for any age, right? It's, video games are an all ages hobby. As long as you're having a good time and you're not, making yourself destitute or you don't have an unhealthy relationship with games, who cares? Keep playing them. Play them to your deathbed. I mean, yeah. There's no age limit on fun, right? And enjoying yourself and doing what you love.
Exactly.
So, well, speaking of retro, and I use heavy air quotes for this, our last news story of the day has something to do with something we talked about, I think, last week. So let's go ahead and get that up on screen. And we did mention that Nintendo would be ending 3DS and 3DS XL repairs in Japan at the end of the month, same day as Nintendo Doomsday. Turns out, however, they are ending repairs early because, and I believe you said this originally, Steve, or at least posited this idea. Yeah, they ran out of spare parts. You were right, man. You mentioned that might be why they have to end repairs early. It might not just be a Nintendo Doomsday thing, and it turns out you're right. They are running out of spare parts. So these retro handhelds can no longer be repaired. That's weird, man, to think that the 3DS and 3DS XL are old enough. That
give it 10, 15 years, there's going to be classic places just repairing those the NES, the SNES. I'm sure it's still a thing right now, but I think it's going to become more prominent as time goes on, making sure these consoles can.
I saw this amazing thing online the other day. It was a open source NES motherboard, and it was designed so that you could build yourself from scratch a brand new NES, and you could use either an original NES processor that you harvested from a dead NES, or you could put in an FPGA like they do with those analog mini consoles and program it to behave the same way as an NES. It was wild. I watched a YouTube video of somebody just from start to finish building a brand new Nintendo Entertainment System in 2020. I was like, well, I feel unaccomplished now. I can't go to my garage and build a brand new console when I feel like it.
Right.
But I made it through the video, and that's what counts.
Right.
Did you pick up a 3DS HG?
I did actually only get one. There was a store here that was closing down and they were liquidating a lot of their handheld stuff. And so I ended up with one just because it was the right price. But I can't say I've played very much on it except for maybe a little bit of Kirby. And that's about it. Yeah. I just don't really have... Choice. Yeah, I don't really do a lot of handheld gaming. Like I'd prefer to just sit on my couch and, bust out that CRT. But I feel like as I've gotten older, my eyesight's gotten worse and the screens, they're big enough, but they're so small as well at the same time. And I'd just rather have a device that puts stuff onto a larger screen for me. I've worn glasses my whole life, and I'm sure I'm just on the cusp of needing bifocals. So it's only a matter of time for me.
Right. Yeah, fortunately, I've not got... Well, I wear contacts. I did wear glasses once on stream. I typically don't wear glasses on camera, but I am as nearsighted as they come. So if it weren't for my contacts, I would need to be sitting right up against the TV, which would probably make my eyesight even worse. But it's wild to me that I can think... I very clearly remember when the 3DS was still coming out and the 3DS launch hype. And I'm just like, now we're talking about... you can't repair it anymore, or Nintendo can't repair it anymore because they run out of spare parts. It's just wild to me how fast time goes. Wild.
I do want to point out, just to put a more positive spin on this, I don't think that this would necessarily be the case if we didn't have a worldwide transistor shortage. I think that we're having issues getting PS5s. We're having issues getting Xboxes. I haven't seen a GPU in stock for a year. So I feel like that could definitely contribute to this, and people just saying like, hey, we're already working our production lines to make current stuff. Like, how big of a priority is 3DS replacement parts?
Especially whenever a game came out on the 3DS, it's like, why isn't this on Switch?
Yeah, right. The whole world has moved on. So, yeah, right. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, I feel like it's a unnaturally short amount of time, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. We do have one minor thing to talk about still, but before we do, I want to offer a little bit of GVG lore to everybody. Adam Davis in the chat a little while back said, all the homies love Ash middle name Paulson. And as much as I love the idea of my middle name being middle name, and that can be canon if we want, my middle name is actually Todd. So if that helps, you can just say, Ash Todd Paulson. Now you know what my middle name is. There's a bit of GVG lore for you.
Why do you constantly have Pokemon protagonist names?
It's weird, right? It's so weird. Yeah.
You have
Black Ninja.
You have Ash, you have Todd, and Todd Snap, and then there was Paul in Gen 4 anime.
Oh, okay. I'm not as familiar with
the rival.
With the anime's past. Okay, the rival. Oh, I forgot that's his name. That's so funny. Or you could also say I'm an evil X. Eduardo Tena says Ash is an evil X confirmed, that's. But I'm not a vegan, so I might have. I was going to say
you're far from vegan.
I'm not a vegan. So, Sci-Fi Lullabies asks, is Ash short for anything? Yes, Ashton. So Ashton's my full name, but I don't really love it, so I just kind of go by Ash.
You could also call him Ash Toddy if you're feeling saucy.
You could Ash Toddy. You know what? I've never heard that. I've gotten Ash Hole before, and I've gotten Ash Sprin, but I've never gotten Ash Toddy. I like that. That's good. Black Ninja asks, hey Ash, if you don't mind me asking, what type of contacts do you use? I used to have a hard type, but they were drying out really fast. So hard or soft? Same experience as you. I used to have hard lenses, hated them, and switched to soft, and I'm much happier with soft lenses now. That said, let's go ahead and move on to our last bit of, not really news, this is more of a PSA, so let's go ahead and get that about screen. But for you Resident Evil fans out there, do know that there is an email scam going out regarding Resident Evil Village and gaining an early access invitation to the game. The exact wording is in Capcom's email that I received today is, hi Ash, we're sending this message as we've been made aware that there are currently emails circulating that pretend to contain early access invitations to Resident Evil Village. The sender address is being displayed as noreply@capcom.com. We want to inform you that these messages are not from Capcom and appear to be phishing attempts by an unauthorized third party. If you have received such a message, please do not download any files or reply and delete the message immediately. So that pretty much says it all right there. Just be careful if you're a Resident Evil fan. Don't fall for it. Don't give away any information. There's no official early access invite thing going out. And we just wanted to make sure you all are aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that does finally bring us to the end of our news for the day. But as always, before we sign out or head out, HG, please tell our awesome audience where they can find your content.
So you folks can find me over on twitch.tv, and the screen name there is Hungry Goriya, or over on YouTube, same screen name. I do retro reviews over there on games I've played on stream or off stream, and I just try to touch on things that are kind of niche, not so over talked about. So trying to corner a little bit of the internet for myself. That's about it there.
Cool. Well, I just want to say thank you again on behalf of all of us for joining us for today's show. It was an honor having you on, and would love to have you back.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you all very much for thinking of me and reaching out. This was wonderful. I'm gracious for the opportunity.
Yeah, and
of course. Well,
I really want to point out, just to underline how much I love Hungry Goriya's channel. It is like a window into my childhood. Like, looking at the videos, I can see a review of Zillion. There's this great video I watched. It's older, but it was 8 NES favorites done Master System style. And Ash, there is a Mega Man equivalent in that list.
Uh-oh.
So you definitely need to watch it. I really love these videos because I grew up with just a Master System, as you all know, and to see somebody so faithfully covering a really undercovered console is really cool. There's also I think the most recent video, or the pinned video, is about the Sailor Moon RPG fan translation, which I just installed on my Super NES Classic like 2 days ago. So that was a really weird coincidence to see it up there. But yeah, it's awesome retro content. And I can't recommend it enough. I subbed immediately. All y'all should do the same. And I subbed on both Twitch and YouTube. So, and I have like 2 Twitch subs total. So that should tell you something about how I feel about the content. So please go check her out, both places. I promise you will be rewarded for spending your time there.
Yes, and HG, I've already followed you on Twitter. I plan to sub on YouTube as well and check out the list Steve mentioned. I'm excited.
Right on. Yeah, and if you ever have any questions, I'm no expert in the Master System, but I'm certainly enjoying my time in the library. That's for damn sure. So you know where to find me anyway. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah. Well, as always, before we end, we have to give a special thanks to all of our patrons at the producer tier and above for helping to make this show happen, because without your support, it would not be happening, and we wouldn't be having such a great time 3 times a week with such an awesome rotating panel of guests, and we really, really appreciate your support. However, we, of course, also have to offer an extra special thank you to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those awesome people include Jared Edinger, Brandon Bovia, Rob Arman X, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Hyrule Hermit, Sky Blue Flames, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Michael Phone, Floating Mew, Aiko Carroll, Christopher, The D-Pad, Vesmio, Waffle King, Nick Waterman, Jesse M, aka Kitty Kong Facts, Angel Martinez, Vedron Hotik, Makalau, John, Joshua Hunter, Evernight Studio, Benny Yao, Shadow the Cat, Alessia, Azrad127, Kinrule09, Jake Pelka, Geller, Shiny Turkey, Joseph Rutkin, Titus Malvolio, Charlie Bird, Lucky Wonderfish, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Charles Zaz, Douglas Chomix, Andrew Medeiros, Aurum, Brady Power, Phantom 23, Scott Barber, Patrick Harrison, Becca, Fizzywig Hoyd, Rocks the Cat, Loyal Dingo, Flaming Highwayman, Sean Garrett, The Legend of Groose. I just have to say it like that. I don't know why I have to. It's so good. Eddie B, Kai Ed, Kit Fisto, West Egg, Master Lynx, Sean Davis, Deaneth, Jackson Jordan, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Ashish Joshi, Goron Amber, Straight Lace, Hoobie, Wolf X Blake and Moon Macarons, Kane, Captain Finlandia, 60 Minutes and 60 Seconds, The Game Orb, Dano the Artist, Synchro Lord, Brainchild, Rosa Pardo Bowling.
I'm sorry, Mom. I love you, Mom. Bye, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Dark Umi 87, The Flying Tacos, Scuff 196, Skull Kid Tiger, AJB Cool, Chip Damage Mike, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, and finally, Phantom Project. And if you're curious about how you can join our live audience tier or become part of our executive producer squad, head on over to patreon.com/gvgaming where you can see all the different tiers at which you can support us. But of course, even if you don't and you just drop a like and subscribe on this video, we love you and we appreciate you all the same. You mean the world to us, and we can't thank you enough for your support. So, as always, thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you next time for Today's News Tonight. And until then, good night and good vibes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Night.
Bye.